Who here runs cross country? For the sake this is probably true and also it's asynchronous, I'm just gonna assume no one. What? Crazy! Because believe it or not, speech and debaters can be athletic too. I know, right? Who would have thought? But seriously, whenever I was competing in high school, a lot of the competitors who were athletic were running cross country. And you know what? I can kind of gauge why for two reasons. A, we both just love subjecting ourselves to pain. And B, cross country is a loser sport and speech and debate, the loser organization. Yeah, the schools didn't give a crap about us, but much like speech and debate, cross country is a mind game. But when you're running with a mind game and you're mentally ill, it's not fun. When your brain is telling you you suck over and over again, there are gonna be some issues. And some of those issues could be chalked up to the fact that when you're medicating, sometimes they don't work like they're supposed to. For instance, when I was in my second trial of medications as a sophomore, my cross-country coach was all like, "Hey Annie, did you know that M. Van Winhernen and M. Engelman Sundberg provided a 2021 September 22nd article that only 30% of patients who receive psychopharmacological treatment have clinical success?" And I was all like, "No, that's awful." So today, we will analyze psychopharmacology before examining its effects and finally drawing some solutions on how we can help those who have suffered from the trial and error process in medicating. Unlike what Troy Barnes and community thought, psychopharmacology is in fact not the study of crazy farm animals. But honestly, it kind of sounds like it, so I don't blame him. But I am a biased source because anything that Childish Gambino says is just right in my eyes. So, ColumbiaDoctors.org says that psychopharmacology is a study of medications and medications improving mental health processes. They also go on to discover that psychopharmacology involving medication can actually improve most mental health conditions. Wow, Annie, thanks for the obvious information. Oh, no problem. I just wanted to stick it out there for those who weren't aware, because the first time I heard the word psychopharmacology was from Troy Barnes. And my mother's an RN, so you can imagine how embarrassing that was for me. So, however, N. Van Winkelheim also goes on to describe that the study of psychopharmacology comes all the way from the 50s, with psychological improvement happening ever since. In layman's term, better drugs helped move things along. However, it was mostly because of political rallies, marketing campaigns, and changes in the system. So we can see all this improvement happening in this day and age. And the normalization of mental health medication, which is just phenomenal. Fun story. When I came to college last year, I put my medication on my desk in my dorm, and my mom was freaking out. Like, "Danny, you do not need people knowing you take medication." Toby, do you not know how many people I know take medication? So many. And so many people like my age, which is a whole different problem. But with each generation comes more acceptance. And with finding the right medication comes the trial and error process. Robert Kessler, PhD, describes the process in Helio.com, how when one person is trying to have a treatment, they tend to move things along and change treatment plans to find one that suits them better. The trial and error process is incredibly popular in the medical field. However, when patients have failure after failure, it can become dangerous. Now, I'm by no means slapping away medication. I'd be the biggest hypocrite if I was. But I'm simply saying that the trial and error process can be dangerous. All right, so let's try to find a great analogy for the trial and error process. Got it. It's like when you're trying to run a 5K for the first time. You start off and you're feeling great because you started it. However, terrain changes. And with that terrain change, you either stick to your running pace, which is pretty good and it's working for you, or you change paces, which it's not working for you. So you change your pace, but then lo and behold, you have to change your pace again because it's still not working, and at that point, you are just pissed off. When it comes to the effects of trial and error process, we have the best example right here. When I started medication as a sophomore in high school, I was feeling great. Birds were chirping, the sun was shining, and all was well. But hey kids, insurance sucks sometimes. But that's a persuasive for another day. I ultimately had to change to a depression medication, which turned what I like to refer to as Annie's circle of sadness into full gear. So that was a fun time. I had to leave the cross-country team for the rest of the year because apparently it's scary when you have 2 panic attacks in 2 weeks in the middle of running practice, which I never heard that, but it was a dark time. However, I stopped medication for a while and finally got back one on for anxiety, and things are a lot better. I mean, obviously not everything's fixed because if I were mentally stable, I sure as hell wouldn't be doing speech and debate. So, however, with the trial and error process comes success, but sometimes it takes far too long. In 2000 Times, Los Angeles Times Review discusses how doctors provide that sometimes it takes them 2 or 3 times or even 6 or more times to find the right medication. And that no matter how many depression medications they have, it can be difficult to pinpoint which one actually works. After this and after the frustrations that ensue, patients can feel incredibly overwhelmed and wanting to give up on the medication process. And at that point, they have to find other ways to cope, which, I mean, this generation has great coping mechanisms. The internet has ensured that dark humor is all the rage, which, if you don't agree with me, I'm gonna go kill myself. So, yeah, it's great. It's great. So, let us examine how exactly this works out. The whole process is that you have a doctor, the doctor prescribes you medication, and you try the medication, so on and so forth. However, not everybody's mental health journey is the same, and we all have to find different ways to treat those crazy farm animals up there after all. So, what are some solutions we can find? Solution number 1, just be happy, guys. Not really. Solution number 1 actually can be through genetic testing. Although it can be helpful to find people in your biological family that suffer the same illness and receive medication, it does not work all the time. Through genetic testing, they can go through your DNA and find a genetically correct medication that works for you. The mechanic in 2018 described that through this testing, it's improving so much. And we can see through faster working than the trial and error medication that this can be a lot more successful. Now, going on to our second solution is finding resources to help those who are in the trial and error process. I'm not sugarcoating it. This thing is not going anywhere. It's the primary way of finding solutions. So some people just have to find ways to cope. Ronald Kessler blatantly puts later in the article how people who are depressed can ultimately be helped, but they have to realize they have to stick it through and go on and persevere to find the treatment that works best for them. A lot of times just pushing through till you find the right one. But for those who are not yet ready to receive medication, not ready to talk to a doctor, do not have insurance, or want to find alternative methods, here are some great sources for you. HealthAmerica.org is a program that you can go online and find mental health grievances as well as look at your different types of mental illnesses. HelpGuide.org is a nonprofit that you can look for your mental illness, types of medication, and alternatives to medication if you are not yet ready to go on that journey. Pot. Who said that? That is so out of pocket, guys. So, now that we're sprinting the last 200 meters, we have examined psychopharmacology, analyzed its effects, before finally drawing some solutions on what we can do about the trial and error process. There's no sugarcoating it. It sucks. I've said it's like at least 2 times in the speech. However, with sharing your experience with others, you can find a cathartic experience in yourself and helping others. I mean, it's also really exciting to see who else takes the same medication as you. So much fun, guys. But all in all, we can find a way to help one another and provide resources for those who need it, who are suffering. And all right, I guess running is fine. It's maybe just me projecting now that I'm actually kind of healthy and love running, but with that, I leave you the wise words of Kate Bush. Go run up that hill, girl.